Hey fellow Force users and fellow superheroes, what is up? It's Jasmine, the Ahsoka Tano fan. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So guys, it is time for another video on episode 2 of Secret Invasion. Due to time constraints for this week, guys, I unfortunately wasn't able to do a reaction video, but I did not want to pass up on reviewing this episode, so I figured I would share my thoughts and go into an in-depth review. So this video is going to be a review video, but not a reaction video. I did get a chance to watch the episode, and so let's dive right into the review part and let's share some thoughts. So the episode actually starts off in 1995 this time, and we are given a Captain Marvel flashback. We see them sit down with Maria Rambeau, who we know is Monica Rambeau's mother and friend of Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. And then we quickly are brought to the year 1997, in which we see Nick Fury and Talos speaking to other Skrulls, and essentially he makes a deal with them. He and Carol Danvers will work to find them a permanent home. And I believe his words are actually, if you hold up your end of the deal, I'll hold up mine. And those words obviously hold a lot of weight later in the episode and also in the whole series, because we now know that this is why some of the Skrulls are upset with Fury, because they look at him as having not held up his end of the deal, and therefore they feel compelled to forcefully take Earth as their new home. During that scene, we got to also see a young Gravik. We find out that his parents were killed. We see that he is accompanied by a woman who advocates for him being recruited. And that young woman, we actually find out who she is later on in the episode, which we're going to get to that later on in the video. During that scene, you got to see G'iah and Soren, and you actually got to see how Soren looked in human form. The episode then takes us back to present day in the immediate aftermath of the explosion. We see again Maria Hill's death. I still cannot get over the fact that they killed her off in that way. That still is pretty upsetting to me. We see what happens immediately after that, and Nick Fury is snatched up by someone who looks like a shady agent, but then it turns out to be none other than Talos himself. We see that somebody else is arrested, and this person insists that they're an American and had nothing to do with the bombing. And this person, if you recall, was actually, I believe, in the previous episode, we saw how he took his human form. We saw the human version of him, if you will, get kidnapped and then placed in that machine where his memories were extracted, and then the Skrull took on his human form. And we also later see him pop up as a hostage during the scene with Sonya Fellsworth, which we'll also get to later on in the video. The train scene between Talos and Fury was an interesting one. So first, we don't know that it's Talos right away. We see a woman, then it ends up being Talos. Something I noticed too, on the door, it said the number is 1948. I don't know if that carries any significance somehow, but I did notice that and thought that I would point it out. During their conversation, there's a lot that's revealed. First of all, you see Nick Fury talk about what it was like riding in colored cars, so he did touch on racism, which I think was significant. He also revealed a game that he used to play with his mom, which was called Tell Me Something I Don't Know, and he was talking about a certain Susie. I have my thoughts about who this Susie is. I'm pretty sure we found out at the end, but we will discuss that more when we talk about the final scene of the episode. He then decides to play this game with Talos by getting more information from him, and it's revealed that Talos actually summoned already 1 million Skrulls to Earth, and there's clearly a disagreement between the two of them on this. And on one hand, you could look at Talos as having had no option, because as he said, his people were being targeted and annihilated, and he felt this was the only option, which was bringing them to Earth. But he did so without Fury's knowledge. So right away, that kind of tells me that they don't necessarily always see eye to eye on things, and can we 100% trust Talos? I did mention in my last video, guys, that I do have a slight suspicion on him. I know he's been working with Fury, but is it possible that he has his own plan? Could he somehow be behind this invasion? Is he up to something that we just don't see yet? As we know, this series is all about deceit and lying and not knowing who to trust.
You lied to me.
On the other hand, the fact that Fury didn't know this, and we found out that he was also up in space for years, that's what Talos mentioned during the scene, does that mean that perhaps everybody is right about him? Has he been off his guard lately and unable to foresee things happening? Would the old Fury have been able to see this coming in a way that the new Fury doesn't? Was Maria Hill right in that sense, that he is no longer steps ahead as he once was? And as a side note, one thought that was going through my head during that scene was, they are talking so loudly. How is the rest of the train not hearing this right now? One of the scenes that we see next is Maria Hill's send-off, and we see her mother, Elizabeth, whom, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the first time we're seeing her. I don't recall seeing her before. Her and Fury have an interesting conversation. She goes to him seeking to find out what exactly happened to her daughter, and she's not satisfied when he doesn't give her a straight answer. Ironically, she kind of does to him what he was doing to Talos, playing the game of tell me something that I don't know. She wants Nick Fury to tell her something she doesn't know. Give it to me straight. So I kind of found that was interesting to have those scenes happen one after the other. They were kind of similar in a way. I definitely understand her grief, but I did not like how she pinned everything on Fury. And it does seem so far in the series that a lot of people are doing that. You even see that happen a bit later in the episode where some people are pointing fingers at him and blaming him for everything that went down. This includes Rhodey, which of course we'll get to soon later on in the video. We next see the council meeting take place between Gravik and the other council people. And what is revealing about this scene is we had just seen them appear on TV, the politicians that were outraged over this attack, and here they are, they're actually all not only working together, but they're all secretly Skrulls, just again enforcing this idea that you do not know who you can trust. Anybody could be an ally or an enemy. And it actually speaks to a line that Nick Fury says later in this episode, which was that the invasion has already happened and we don't even know who the invaders are. This council meeting is a perfect example of that. During this council meeting, you see how little Gravik cares about the innocent lives that were lost, and it seems to not bother him because according to him, humans already do this, so he's basically essentially just hastening the inevitable. You can definitely see though there's some disagreements amongst this council. That one member, the head of NATO, I believe he was, I really thought they were going to kill him there, and I thought they were going to kill the woman, but surprisingly they let her walk. I guess that goes to show that you don't really know what Gravik's thinking and where his head's at. Sometimes he might spare you, sometimes he might kill you. We see later on in the episode that he does kill someone. But either way, the way that Gravik was so carefree about those that had been killed and the way that he was able to ascend to leader definitely tells us that he is somebody to watch out for in this series. Even Gravik and G'iah's relationship is kind of questionable as well. You see after the meeting, he doesn't really seem to wait for her. He makes her wait outside in the first place, doesn't even let her attend the meeting. Definitely gives me the impression that he looks at her as more subordinate versus being an equal partner. It makes you kind of wonder where their relationship is going. I definitely get the sense that she is going to turn against him eventually. Does she really believe in his cause, or is she just secretly trying to get close to him in order to eventually take him down? For those of you who watch the Kenobi series, spoiler alert if you haven't, that was what Reva, the third sister, did regarding Darth Vader. You also see G'iah follow one of the Skrulls to a lab in which he meets someone, I believe her name was Dr. Dalton, and there's somebody else there with her. And they mentioned something about harvesting DNA. Whose DNA are they harvesting? Is this how they create or obtain the human shells that they are constantly in the form of? You do see G'iah later on in the episode try and find out more about this Dr. Dalton on the laptop, and during that scene I do recall the word Groot coming up. It just kind of reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy.
I am Groot.
You also do see that information revealed to Sonya later in the episode about how a married couple is behind the science and there is some weapon being made in order to make the Skrulls stronger. We have to figure out what exactly is going on there and who exactly is this Dr. Dalton. In one of the next scenes, you see Rhodey being questioned by several countries, and of course the trippy part is you know that some of them are Skrulls, especially the UK Prime Minister. They are questioning him over the presence of Nick Fury and Maria Hill being in Moscow when the explosion happened. And you notice that Rhodey keeps saying the words allegedly, which is kind of interesting because in this series, essentially everything is alleged, including video surveillance and photos, because you never know if you're looking at an actual human or if they are in fact a Skrull. It definitely kind of reminds me of AI and where AI and virtual reality is going. In the future, is it going to be a thing where AI is so powerful that you really are not going to be able to verify the authenticity be of anything. Shortly after, you see Rhodey and Fury have a conversation in a restaurant, to which Rhodey is clearly displeased with how Fury handled the situation, even though I think my guy did his best. It wasn't like he knew all this was gonna happen. But again, it just seems as though in this episode, a lot of people are blaming Fury for what happened. Maria Hill's mother, Maria Hill, said that he wasn't on his game. Sonya said he wasn't on his game last episode. Now you have Rhodey blaming him and essentially firing him from what we saw in that scene. But as Nick Fury says, even when I'm out, I'm in. So I definitely think that he still has more game left in him and is perhaps more steps ahead than people might realize and give him credit for. The other thing on my mind was, how do we even know that we're talking to Rhodey and not just a Skrull? That's why the series is so trippy. You just never know who you're really talking to, and depending on who you're really talking to, that completely changes the dynamic of the scene entirely. As we're nearing the tail end of the episode now, you see Sonya go to some sketchy butcher shop. This whole scene was a little bit suspenseful, actually. You kind of wonder, who is she actually meeting? You end up seeing that she's meeting some guy who is interrogating another guy, a hostage, and that hostage is none other than the same man from the beginning who was arrested, but we never saw what happened to him. We just saw that based off of the news report, he was identified as the #1 suspect. So during this scene, guys, I was honestly wondering, is she really gonna interrogate this guy, or is she just making it look like that, but she's gonna free him? We find out, of course, that she does not free him, and in fact, she does interrogate him in a more brutal way than the guys before her did. She cuts off his finger, which was definitely a surprising display of violence from a series like this. I didn't really expect that. She did that with a purpose, and that was to find out whether or not he was a Skrull. And that just shows us that whoever the Sonya Fellsworth character is, she definitely will stop at nothing when it comes to hunting down Skrulls, and we kind of got the sense of that, guys, based off of the last episode. She was talking about how we have to basically move on the Skrulls, and so you're seeing how serious she is about hunting down Skrulls. As I mentioned before in the video, he reveals to her that there is some married couple that is leading the science, and he also reveals to her that there is some machine that Gravik is making to make all Skrulls stronger. So again, we just really have to find out what this is all about. You saw how brutal Gravik was in the scene. He shot the guy through the door, he killed all those guys, and then he ends up killing his own man because he senses that he did actually reveal information to Sonya despite saying otherwise. Gravik, you really don't know what he's thinking. He's kind of unpredictable, and that's what makes him a bit scary. He spared the woman in the beginning on the council, despite her not wanting to submit to him being leader. Yet he kills one of his own who gave up information that would put him and his operation in danger, which, poor guy, could you really blame him though, given the circumstances? Him doing that was a little bit pointless because what he told her is already out there anyways. In fact, one of the ways I was thinking the scene could have gone down was rather him rescuing the guy and then killing him afterwards. I thought that maybe he'd go there and then kill him before he could speak. That would actually, I think, have made more sense. He already spoke anyway, so now you just killed him for nothing. It is concerning that he seems so unbothered by killing certain people, first with the explosions, and now one of his own fellow Skrulls. You see G'iah during that car scene. She seems visibly disturbed, and I think that that is the beginning of her potentially going against him, if she hasn't already done that already, because I mentioned before that it's possible she might be just trying to get close to him to take him down in the end. So based off of those couple scenes, we now know that Sonya has this valuable information, and you kind of have to wonder what she is going to do with it. She handed a phone to one of the interrogators. This person is clearly a boss. We don't really know for sure who that is. Is it the same man that she was talking to from the last episode that Nick Fury picked up on by putting that secret camera on her owl's eye? Or is it somebody else that we haven't yet been introduced to? So now, last but not least, the final scene of the episode shows Nick Fury going to a house. You see a female Skrull. Now, when I saw that Skrull, I recognized her from the beginning as being the woman with Gravik. We then see her transition into human form. He shows a wedding band, they embrace for a kiss, and then you realize that that is in fact his wife. And I am guessing that this is the Susie he was referring to in the beginning of the episode on the train ride with Talos, when he spoke about playing Tell Me Something I Don't Know with his mom. I do have questions. Number one, she's a Skrull, and I assume Nick Fury knows that? And if that's the case, that means he has a Skrull wife despite him being human. And what if he doesn't know? Then that would be a big shock to him, thinking that he's been with his human wife, but meanwhile she's actually a Skrull. Is it possible that that is how his real wife looks, but something maybe happened to her in the past? Now he's with this Skrull woman who just takes the form of his wife so that he could feel like he's actually with his wife. I'm not really sure what that's all about, but it was definitely a nice little reveal that I didn't see coming. And I also wonder how she came to find Gravik in the first place and what she thinks of the whole situation. How much does she know about the situation and who Gravik has become and grown into now? I guess these are all things that we'll have to wait and find out and see, guys. But anyways, that was a really good episode overall. Definitely lots to break down. You guys let me know down below in the comments what you thought of the episode and any thoughts or predictions you might have. And as always, guys, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you next week for an all new episode of Secret Invasion. Until next time, guys, take care and see you soon.